There is still a crisis in Puerto Rico. Even now, Puerto Rico is still in the midst of what's become the longest blackout in U.S. history and the second longest blackout ever. While Puerto Ricans are Americans, their relationship status is closer to friends with benefits than a full-fledged union. The earliest inhabitants of modern-day Puerto Rico were ancestors of indigenous Caribbeans called the Taínos. They named the island Borinquen, and the people became known as Boricuas. In 1493, Christopher Columbus landed on Borinquen, colonizing the island for Spain. About 30 years later, the Spaniards named it Puerto Rico, meaning rich port. Over the next 400 years, under Spanish rule, slave labor was used to benefit from the island's natural resources. Diseases like smallpox were also brought to the island, wiping out a large portion of the native Taíno population. After Spain lost the Spanish-American War in 1898, Puerto Rico became a U.S. territory. Then, in 1917, the Jones Act granted U.S. citizenship to all Puerto Ricans, and in 1952, Puerto Rico officially became a United States Commonwealth, which is somewhere between a state and an independent nation.
The island is destroyed.
The death toll from Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico is more than 70 times higher than officials claim.
Hurricane season is back and threatens even more destruction to the millions of Americans that call Puerto Rico home. Let me take you back. It was September of 2017, just weeks after Hurricane Irma left nearly 2/3 of the island without power. Hurricane Maria, the second hurricane, made landfall in Puerto Rico. The Category 4 storm arrived with 150-mile-per-hour winds and departed as the worst natural disaster in the island's history. The U.S. government's response was slow and underwhelming.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack.
Especially when compared to the assistance they offered after Hurricane Harvey, which ravaged Texas and the Southeast. A little over a week after the respective hurricanes, FEMA approved $141.8 million in individual assistance to Harvey victims, compared to just $6.2 million for Maria victims. Throughout the past few decades, the island has been plagued by a massive debt crisis, a crisis that was only amplified after Hurricane Maria. More than 250,000 Puerto Rican refugees fled to the mainland in search of better living conditions. These refugees have been forced to give up the place they called home. But for the millions that remain, the future is still uncertain. Prior to the hurricane, Puerto Rico was experiencing serious issues that were largely overlooked by the U.S. Problems like government debt, mismanagement of the electrical grid, and unemployment nearly 3 times that of the United States average. Hurricane Maria only exacerbated these issues. Now that FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers recovery efforts have officially ended, Puerto Rico is left with the daunting task of rebuilding on its own. Puerto Rico is part of the greater American family, an amazing culturally rich place that has shaped our history, our art, and our communities for over a century. So remember, these Americans need our help, and it's on us to show compassion and to support our greater nation by getting involved. Share this video if you think the Americans in Puerto Rico deserve our attention.